All right, so big welcome. It's Robert here, Robert Nichelius. I've got Alan with me on the other end. How are you doing, Alan? You excited to do this?
Very good, man. I'm sitting on my couch with my two big dogs and a cup of coffee, and we have a lot of recording to do.
You got
We have a
your,
lot to talk about.
you got your fake excitement, flailing arms, the guru energy ready to go.
Yeah, yeah. I got my Rolex on, my black Aura ring. I got my
AirPods
whiteboard behind.
in,
Yeah, yeah. I got the AirPods in. I got the whiteboard behind me.
rented
And a
Lambo in
bookshelf.
the garage.
Yeah, yeah. I got a bookshelf. I got the sec. No, actually, I'm sitting here on my couch with my Great Dane next to me. She's sleeping, and I got my hand on her. I'm using her as like a one of those. What do you call these things?
Armrest.
Like when you Yeah, like I'm seriously using her as an armrest, and then the other dog is over in a chair. She's sleeping. So yeah,
Lovely.
some
Well,
coffee. Yeah.
welcome to this little course, I guess you could call it. This is about how we sell 100 to 300 $5 books a day and turn them into $5,000 to $25,000 sales. We've got this really cool little process that we kind of built internally because we wanted to be able to do this at scale, right? We want to be able to take our, take an idea, turn it into an offer, whether it's a new book or a new course or whatever, and be able to produce that in-house. And we turned this into a little system. And then Alan, I think you posted something in our Facebook group, right, under my name to kind of see what the interest level was.
Yeah, so me and Robert live in different time zones. I'm on the East Coast and he's in Poland, so he's 6 hours ahead. So I think like one night around like 9 or 10 p.m. I was just curious to know. I'm like, well, I'm like, okay, we're gonna talk about that in a minute. Why we did it, but I was like, I'm curious if other people would want to learn how to. When we built this process, like it was like creating something that's like magic, right? Because like we have this process that can sell these like $5 books and then turn them into five to $25,000 sales, which is literally 1,000 times more, right? So imagine somebody gives you $1, and then like in 7 days later, they give you $1,000. It's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
And the crazier part is like the people buying our stuff, like we never meet them, we don't know who they are. It's like they're all over the world, and like we're changing lives. Like I mean, once we show you everything, you're gonna see how awesome people love the products. Right? So we're like, hey, let's do this in other markets. So we're gonna go into the yoga market, the weight loss market, and the dating market and a few other markets. And so I was like, internally. So I was like, well, I wonder if other people, want to learn how to do this, right? Because I think I identified like 6,000 markets, and there's no way in hell we can
Yeah.
we can do all 6,000. So made a little post, went to sleep, and next day it was like, I think like 100, 150 comments. And then like within 2 days, there was like over 500 people wanting to do this. And so the idea was like, so we had this crazy idea, like, let's do this big fancy internet marketing launch, right? So like, we're like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and do this launch. It'll be great. And then like, we did one video, right? And we're like, oh, like, launches suck, right? Because it's like, what's the point? Like, you just do a launch, you make a bunch of money, and then it
That
just goes
work
to
is
shit.
like you can't reuse that work, right? Like the launch. So we don't really like that model.
Yeah, but also like we don't do launches, right? So it's like, why are we doing a launch? We don't do launches. It's not aligned with our philosophy of how we do business. And so we just scraped the launch, and then like we had this one video for the launch, and people kept asking when it's more videos, more videos. So anyway, so we made this like, we're like, let's do this. Let's show people how this works, right? And our philosophy, by the way, is we give away all our knowledge. That's what we do. So everybody out there is like trying to sell you knowledge. Basically what they do is they get you on a webinar, and they're they'll get you on a webinar and say, we're going to show you 3 tricks to do an XYZ, right? Which sounds too good to be true, which it is. It's like, in the States here, we have this thing where car dealers run ads, and they're like, oh, you can lease, this like $50,000 car for like $129 a month, right? But you got to be like a, Vietnam vet that was like in like the Korean War, that's like missing a leg, that's missing like,
Right.
yeah, you're missing one finger, and you got to show up when it's like full moon. So you might get that deal then, right? And if the banks approve you. So that's the kind of the scene, how it happened, how it works now in our community, where all these guys like, I'll show you, and you come on in this like spectacle, and then they trick you into buying, right? And you feel like shit after. So we're like, that kind of sucks, right? We don't like buying like that. We don't like selling like that. So we're like, let's give away everything. Why not, right? And then what we do is we're like, if you want to work with us at the end of this, we'll just charge you to help you implement, right? Fair. So what ended up happening is like we decided we had this like presentation. It was like this massive 300 slide presentation. We're like, dude, I don't want to talk for 4 hours. I'm gonna die. And so we're like, you know what? Let's just turn this into a course. Let's
Yeah.
just turn it into something that people can actually use and go get results, right? And let's not just sit here and trick them into like this, like, register, like go to shopping cart and like have a fake timer, have a fake timer on the page. They're like, because we respect your intelligence. Like, the gig. So it's like, hey, here's how it works. If if it's for you, it's for you. And once you kind of see what we do, you'll be like, damn, this is good stuff, right? Anyway, so we're going to share with you everything. We're going to show you everything. We're going to share with you the key concepts, the entire model based on. We're not going to hold anything back. We're going to tell you literally every single thing we do. And again, we're not going to sell you anything. We're not going to sell you our knowledge. But at the end, we will offer you a chance to have you help us help you implement it, right? Because our time is limited. And so if you want help implementing this, that's going to be the offer at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. So some fun stuff. I'm not going to read this whole thing to you, but I just wanted to put a disclaimer in here. We're going to be showing you our numbers and all that. And while all of the stuff that we're showing you is true, we don't want you to have this idea of like, oh, if I just kind of watch this and I'll magically have $1 million show up in my account. So I'll put this disclaimer here. Okay, we're not making any claims, et cetera, et cetera. These are our numbers and what we've done, et cetera. And it's no sort of promise that you'll be able to do the same. But go ahead and read this disclaimer. We'll put it on the page here as well. Alan, talk to me, or them rather, about some of the exciting stuff that we're going to be covering in this course.
Cool. All right. So we're going to show you a whole bunch of cool stuff, right? And when I say cool, I mean
useful.
People. Well, yeah. Well, the cool thing about this is like this stuff. No. First off, like very few people do this, right? Very few people even know about this. And second of all, even people that sell the high what would you call it, like high ticket courses or whatever, they don't even know how to do this and they don't even talk about this. So we're going to talk about things that you've never heard of before. Okay. So like if you've been on webinars, bought courses, watched, content videos from people, like you have not seen any of this stuff, right? And I can pretty much guarantee that, right? So how do I know? Because, we have 32 people in the program already. And they're like, holy shit, I never heard of any of this stuff. Anyway, so, we're going to tell you how we built $1 million business, how we took this crazy idea, right? Robert wrote this book, while his baby was asleep. And, we turned this like $5 book into $1 million, right? So kind of crazy. We'll tell you how we did that. We're going to talk about market transition periods. The reason being is, market transition periods have to exist in order for new companies and new businesses to enter a market, right? So if you look at the early century, you had like 2 car companies. So it's like GM and Ford, right? No new companies. And then like during market transition periods, you had like Honda, Toyota, and other car companies come about. Now you have Tesla, and then other electric company. I don't know, right? So we're going to talk about that and how you can spot market transition periods. And once you know how to identify it, you can jump in and actually be early, right? So imagine being early for Bitcoin. Imagine being early for webinars in 2014, like I was. Imagine doing supplements in, I don't know, 2008, like I did. Like if you're early, things got a whole lot easier, right? Because there's not as much complexity. So we'll show you how to do that, how to identify it. We're going to talk about 10x factor of scaling. What that means is like if you sell a $5 book and you can make $50 on it with a component of your funnel, we'll talk about that. Then you can get over 1,000 sales a day. Not easy to get, but doable, right? So like 5x factor is easy. 10x is going to take some work. We'll show you how to get 10x. We're going to talk about 3 levels of customers. Everybody treats every customer the same. They're not the same. Like level 3 customer actually is where your money comes from. Level 1 and 2 customers fund for you to acquire level 3 customer, right? We're going to talk about why everything is mobile first. Like, we just focus on making mobile offers to convert on mobile. And then, sorry, my dog is just like stretching her ass on me. Sure, her leg is like on my laptop. It's so funny. All right, so we're gonna talk about why mobile first. Meaning like if you go to Starbucks, if you go to a restaurant, if you're taking a piss in a toilet, the guy next to you is on a phone, right? People are glued to their phones. There's an addiction going on, right? It's actually like a problem, like phone addiction. And so once you start making offers for phones, you can scale, right? But if you just do it desktops, not so much, right? We're gonna talk about a 7-figure formula, and there's actually like a formula, right? You use this formula, you get results, right? We're gonna talk about how to dominate Facebook, Google, and YouTube. When I say dominate, I mean we're one of few people in the world that actually runs an offer for an entire year, same offer, same ads for an entire year, just targeting countries. Like we're not sitting there like trying to like micro target like this person or that interest or whatever. We have a process that lets you just target countries. You can target like United States or UK or whatever. Like we target like I think like Dubai, the Middle East, Singapore, Japan, South Korea, Ukraine, Italy, like Germany, like all the top countries, and you can dominate it, right? And like once you get this process, very, very easy to do, and specific type of ads that you got to run, right? So for example, if you're going to do content ads, content ads don't work as well as direct ads. The reason being is there's guys on YouTube making great content with $30,000 cameras, whereas people are sick of content. So why would they? Meeks, quit growling. I'm talking. You hear my dog?
Nope.
Yeah, she's like, "Rrr." So anyway, so like like there she goes. She's got tired of me using her as an armrest. So there's people out there on YouTube, using $30,000 cameras to make great content. And so if you're out there trying to compete with them on a content level, it doesn't work as well. So we're going to show you the type of ads we run. We're going to show you an ad there's one ad we have, right, made us $200,000. We're going to show you how to do that. Then at the end of this whole thing, we're going to invite you to the program. And again, there's not going to be like a buy button where you can come in and buy, right? Right. If you get invited to the program, it means you get invited to talk to us, right? After we talk to you, first off, we got to see, do you have potential? Can you do this? Like, so we turn away a lot of people. Like I have personally people PM me on Facebook all the time. I had a guy PM me last night. He wanted in. I asked him, are you on a fixed income? He said, yes. I'm like, sorry, this is not for you, because like, I don't want to get somebody in and basically have them, stress over whether they can pay their bills. There are some people that just genuinely don't have the skill set to do it, right? Mm-hmm. This is not for everybody. It's, the marketing shtick is like, take everybody's money, bring everybody in. It sounds great, but the problem is like once you get people in, they can't do it. You got a headache, right? You got this responsibility. So we take success of our students very, very, very seriously. Like, and that's our North Star. Like we want to have the most success stories in the industry. And it starts off with giving you everything for free, right? All the knowledge. Here's how it works. So, we respect your intelligence. You're smart enough, and you can make that decision for yourself. At the end, we're going to show you that, of course, as well, we're going to show you the 7-figure funnel, our exact funnel, like the pages, the upsells, the back end, the scripts, the ads, the follow-up. We're going to show you all that. And at the end, we might have some Q&A, whereas like if you skipped over anything, we just ask questions and answers. So you're going to learn all that and more. That's probably like 5% of what we're going to cover. But we're going to drill deep into every one of these topics.
Yes, we are. And so to kind of the continuation on that, or, digging into one of those is the 7-figure funnel. So here is what we were able to accomplish basically out of thin air. Being able to consistently have $10,000, $13,000, $12,000, $15,000 days, and having a Facebook group that we started with literally 0 members like anybody else, and adding, I think we're over 8,000. Yeah, actually we are over 8,000 members right now, but we put this screenshot together a couple of weeks ago, and we're adding, 50 new members per day. And again, at the time of sort of this screenshot, we had 11,101 books sold, which, by the way, Sweden, where I'm from, and Poland, where I live, I think that would be a bestseller in both of those countries. So we just took a little book that I wrote, started selling it, and here we are. So we how did we accomplish all of this by selling something like this?
Well, I do want to say one thing. Go back. Mm-hmm. So like on this screenshot, this is tacky, right? Like we this is like kind of, hey, look at all the stuff we did, right? But we didn't want to include this screenshot, to be honest with you, because it's tacky, right? It's kind of like, look, it's bragging, right? But the thing is, like, the reason we put it here is we have to not to impress you, but to impress upon you that, like, look, this shit really works, right? Use it. And the thing is, the other thing you forgot to mention, Robert, is that those Facebook members, I think it's actually over 8,000 now.
Yeah.
And I think it's like 90% customers, buyers. Like, they're mostly buyers, right? So once you run the math down, it's like one buyer is equivalent to like 20 to 100 non-buyers. So you got these guys out there, like I know one guy, they got groups of like 50,000 people, 70,000 people, and then they post something and they get like 8 likes, right? Yeah. Doesn't work as well. Like buyers are they're worth a lot more. And so there's a lot of juice there, And so anyway, yeah, so this is basically here just to tease you a little bit, to make you watch the rest of what we have to say, because it's really good.
Yep. So how did we do this? How do we do all this selling a $5 book? Well,
we put it in a bookstore.
Put it in a bookstore, yeah. We gave it to Amazon and said, hey, sell this book for us. No, actually, we have something that Alan likes to refer to as a component funnel. So why don't you tell them about how that works?
Yeah, okay. So right now, we're living in a world of funnels, right? We used to call that an upsell path, right? Whatever. So usually people when they have a funnel, they're saying, that when I acquire a customer and when I make money, it's all one mixed bag, right? What we do is we say, you know what, let's not worry about making money on the front end at all, right? We just want to acquire the customer. We have this client acquisition engine, customer acquisition engine that allows us to acquire customers for free, right? Meaning that it liquidates. So like if we spend put out $30, we spend $30 to acquire a customer, we make $30 and a customer break even. Like we're not losing any money, right? Because the first rule of running ads and running a scalable offer online is don't lose money, because if you don't lose money, then you can test, you can improve it, right? Yeah. So this component of the funnel that you're looking at, again, we're going to go deep into this, is what acquires the customers, 1 to 300 customers a day, right? Now the next part of the funnel is considered high ticket, right? Which you're selling $5,000 to $25,000 programs, and what happens is that area is completely profit. That's 100% profit. That's like your money that you put in the bank and you go buy fun stuff with, right?
Yep, and so just to kind of illustrate that, like a lot of businesses, on the left here, they have like the same product in one company is responsible for acquiring new customers and turning the company profitable. So on the right, we have our component business where we've separated those. So we have our books, for example, or this funnel right here. This is responsible for getting us new customers, and then we've got a back end that's separate, that's responsible for getting us profits, because like we say, a business that doesn't make sales is just a hobby. So and equally so, like a business that doesn't make you any money, that just breaks even, that's not even a hobby. That's just a stressful day. So you got to have some profits too. And we do all of this with what we call the ECA model. So we've kind of taken something that's quite complex and turned it into something that somebody could follow and understand and know what to do with. And so the ECA stands for Economics, Components, and Assembly. So Alan, maybe you want to cover, just kind of briefly each one and why they're here.
Yeah, okay. So I've been doing this since 2004, right? And like one thing I've noticed is in various industries I've been in, be it a weight loss industry, be it membership sites, it doesn't matter, right? Like all these various industries, like I've been in, I've noticed that people who focus on economics dominate the industry, right? It's like that's the number one factor, I would say, like if you want to dominate industries. So there's nothing else. Like people that focus economics will beat people who are better at marketing, people who are better at sales. They'll beat everybody else. And the what I mean by economics is like, for example, let's say I'm in a weight loss market, you're in a weight loss market, and I say my book says, lose 20 pounds, your book says lose 20 pounds, right? There's only so many ways we can say the same thing where it's like 10% difference, right? Like copy. So a lot of people like copywriting, marketing, and stuff like that. There's only so many ways you can create an ad to move the needle, right? But if you start looking, you're like, okay, you know what? Let's not worry about the words. Let's look at the math, right? And you start changing the math around, like you had an order bump, you had an upsell, you had a downsell, you had other stuff, you had like a two-line item. Yeah, huge back end. Then things change. Then you can go, spend $50 to acquire a $5 customer and break even, and then flip that customer into a $5,000 to $25,000 customer, right? So that's economics, right? The next part is components. So I got actually like so components is basically like if you look at how people build things, they look at everything as like one, right? So everybody's like, the funnel is everything is one. So it's a very intimidating thing. Like, oh, there's so much to do, right? I got to write the book, I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to do that, right? Well, no, it's like you got to, you don't people don't, if you have a problem with something, if you want to accomplish something, it's never like the thing. It's always like components, right? So if you have a problem in a system, the system is not bad. It's a component problem, right? So like you go fix the component, and then the system works magically, right? So with components, what we found was like we have a different components. So there's the book, there's the the front end page, there's the upsells, whatever, and we have a worksheet process which we'll show you. So once you you just work on the components, right? And one component at a time. It's like Legos. You just put a component here, component there, done, done, done. And then, so I'm going to give credit to my buddy Jay because he came up with this concept called assembly. And then once you have the components, you just assemble it together. So just to give you an example of a company that does this is Apple, right? So Apple's economics are massive. So like they could lose money on iPhones or whatever, but then they make a ton of money on the App Store. Now they're getting into having that thing where they're doing competing against Netflix with the TVs, right? So they keep upping their economics and digging deeper, right? when they build iPhones, Apple doesn't create the camera. Apple doesn't create the battery. Apple doesn't, you know, create the screen. They don't do much, right? I think even like, I don't even know if they make the body of the iPhone. What they do is they have an office in California. And if you look at every iPhone, it says designed in California, right? Made in China. They design the iPhone, right? They design this awesome thing and they say, here's the components we want. Then they go to these other companies that have what's called excess capacity, like Sony, and say, hey, Sony, give us a bunch of cameras. Hey, Samsung, give us a bunch of screens, right? Hey, LG, give us a bunch of batteries, or whoever gives them batteries, right? And then they ship all those parts to a factory in China, and they have a bunch of people that just put them together. They assemble them, right? And then boom, then Apple gets to marketing. So we do the same thing. We figure out the math, because the truth is, like, look, like, 5 plus 5 is going to be 10 forever. It doesn't matter how I feel about it. It doesn't matter what you feel about it. It doesn't matter, it's not going to change, right? And the other thing, what we do is, like, everybody wants to have this goal, like, how much do you want to make? I want to make $1 million a year, right? It's so funny, like, if you go to an event, right? If you go to an event and you go to people and you say, how much do you want to make if you speak on stage? So I used to speak on stage at, like, I got, for a few years, and I got sick of it. But anyway, if you go on stage, you're like, how much you guys want to make in your business? Everybody hands up is like, 1,000, 5,000. Everybody wants to make $10,000 a month. That's kind of this magic number. But at the same time, if you ask them, how much do you want to make a year? Everybody's like, $1 million. I want to make $1 million a year, right? So it's like, fine. So what we have is we have a calculator. We'll show you. You punch in your goal revenue, say $1 million a year. It'll tell you how much you got to make a month, a week, a day, an hour. It'll tell you how many books you got to sell. It'll tell you how much your upsells have to convert. It'll tell you how much you can pay for ads on Facebook. It'll give you all these numbers, right? And what happens is when you go on Facebook and you're running ads, you have these thresholds. And what we do is we cut that in half. So we have this super conservative number, and we say, okay, we can spend, I think, $4.55 a click on Facebook max, right? And so when we're running ads, we just look at the numbers and we say, are the numbers matching our economics numbers? And if they're not, then we just fix it. And that's how we don't lose money. We just, we can acquire customers and then flip them over. It's one of the reasons. So that's the ECA model.
Yes, it is. And so I wanted to do just quick intros before we continue. Obviously, we've kind of started diving into the content a little bit more, but I specifically think your background is like you've been doing this for so long. So maybe just take people through a little bit of your background, and then I'll share how the whole sort of how we put the 2R agency together, and that'll help with that.
All right. So I hate talking about myself, but I guess this is necessary, right? Part of the deal. So I started in 2004. I was working at GNC, making like $6 an hour. I was in college, and I was on this forum. I can't remember what the forum was. This guy was making like 30 grand a year, a month, promoting commission junction affiliate shit. And I was like, oh man, it's like, damn, 30 grand a month. And I loved computers. I always loved the internet. I'm like, I got to figure this out, right? And so I went on, and like there was no YouTube, nothing. And like, dude, I read like everything. I mean, I remember having like 200 tabs open just reading. And anyway, so it took me 2 years to make 24 cents. So I made 24 cents with Google AdSense. And then what I did after that is I built a piece of software, and it created tens of thousands of websites that got indexed by Google, and I made a lot of money on AdSense. Took that money, created a website, a membership website called Black Hat Insider, long dead and gone site. And I made good money with it. And then my dad got sick, got cancer. We moved back home to Croatia for him to get treatment. And then when I came back to the States, I was like, okay, I'm gonna go start a supplement company. So at the time, I was in college, by the way. Like before my dad got sick, I was in college, and I remember being in college, thinking like, I had this job as a cable tech. Like I was making like $18 an hour and doing online stuff, right? And so it was interesting because like I was there working, getting paid pretty good, right? I mean, back then for what it was really good. Like 18 hours, like nothing now, but so. I had this thought that was like lodged in my brain, right? And the stuck was like, if I stay at this job, and like a lot of guys after they graduate, they work when they stayed at the job, they got paid pretty good, like at 40, 50, 60 grand a year, right? And I was like, damn, it's like, I can just be the best tech ever, right? And I didn't want that to be my life legacy. Like, I don't care about being the best tech. I want to live my best life for me, not some, weird corporation, right? So that was the first thing. The second thing, it was like nail in the coffin, was like in one of my classes, like one of the professors was like, oh, like, once you graduate, you guys be lucky, you get 30 grand a year, and you got to work your way up and do all this. Sounds like 30 grand a year. I'm like, fuck. I'm like, I see these guys making 30 grand a month.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I'm out. Anyway, so after that, I started a supplement company, crushed it. I remember driving. I had this like Honda Civic, right? And like it was this like 2002 Honda Civic driving, and I'm making like $3,000 a day, and it was like the craziest feeling ever, right? It was like you got people buying your stuff from all over the world, and you're making $2,000 to $3,000 a day, just like hanging out with your friends, right? So did that. Yeah. So I did that. What happened after? Supplements. Yeah. Okay. Then partnered with this guy. We built this membership website. We put like 5,000 people in between, I think $67, $97 a month. We did like $1 million in 11 months. And I remember it, like it was very, that was the first $1 million I made, right? And like the interesting thing about making your first $1 million, it's very anticlimactic, right?
Yeah.
Because like you work so hard at it, you work so long at it that like you're just so fucking tired when you get to it. And I remember like that night, it was like a Thursday, I think. And I opened the shopping cart, whatever. I checked our stats. It was like, boom, $1 million. And I just went to sleep. It wasn't even exciting. It was just like, oh, fuck it. Right. So I did that, went to sleep. And yeah, anyway. And like a few months later, I was like, I was like overweight. I was burnt out. I was tired. And I took a bunch of personality tests, and I was like, I'm doing a lot of stuff in this business that I really hate doing. And, that was that. Quit. And then, what did we do after? After that, I had a buddy call me, and I think I took like 2-3 months off. Right, didn't want to do anything. And I had a buddy call me. He was from Canada, and he's like, I got this idea. Can you write a VSL, which is a video sales letter, for me? I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And literally like on a Skype call, we got on Skype, we were talking, and I just banged it out in like 30 minutes. He's like, can you write the upsell? I wrote him the upsell, and we still use that upsell to this day in this funnel. Actually still works. It's been used for a very long time. A lot of people use it. So we wrote that. I went to sleep, and he emailed his list, and he made like 30 grand, I think $38,000 or something, like he made off of one email, right? And I just started crushing it. And so I was like, oh, this is crazy, right? Like surreal. And because who would have thought, like people watch like this, like 30-40 minute video, and they pay all this, right? It was like $1,000 upsell, right? So it was cool. Anyway, so I called my buddy Jay in Vegas. Like he was in Vegas, and I called him, and I remember calling him like 15-20 times. I was like, wake up, dude, wake up, And I called him. He woke up. He's like, what's going on? He thought there was like some crazy like emergency, something bad happened. And I was like, I have this new way of selling things. Do you have anything we could sell? And he was very heavy into SEO at the time, and he created this course. I wrote the copy. We ran it. I think we did like 800 grand or something with it together. It was awesome. And the funny thing is, like, I had one of my cousins doing our support, because we don't know what the hell we were doing back then. We're just like, we're just printing money with this shit. So we hired my cousin to do support, and he was young at the time, right? Oh, sorry, my dog came. You hear her? So my cousin's doing support, right? And he was young, right? And we hired him, and for some reason he thought that he had to do support for one day, right? So we paid him for a month, and he thought he had to do support one day. Didn't do any. It was like a disaster, like a fucking disaster, like a ton of refunds, like it was crazy. And I was like, holy shit. So we fixed the support. I did another one of these and did like $465,000. Yeah, that was that. And then I did mine, like one more, and I did like 1.3 million in 5 weeks. It was crazy. It was crazy seeing that much money come in. And then after that, I was like, okay. And then I started doing launches on ClickBank, and I did a launch in 2010. And hit number one. We did like 22,000 customers. It was like, what was it? It was like, shit. It was like all-time records, like gravity, sales, everything still stands. Nobody could touch it to this day. And then after that, I helped a bunch of people do launches. Did like 22 number one launches on ClickBank. Yeah, so did that, and then I basically after that I kind of I invested in this furniture company. We did like cubicles and stuff like that. I don't know. It was weird. Like. I knew it was in it. We got in. I financed it. They ran it. And we had a ton of employees, and offline companies weren't my cup of tea, man. It's like a whole different animal. I didn't want to wrestle with. And so I left that, retired for 2 years, spent 56 grand on bikes, like not motorcycles, like bicycles, And like I had a garage full of bikes, like carbon fiber bikes, really into that. And I just spent mountain biking, like it was so funny, right? Like so when I go ride, like my bikes. Like I go ride like at 10 a.m. Like I go ride with these like ride groups from meetup.com. And it's nothing but like, like if you're riding one of these groups, like it's a $10,000, $15,000 bike. So it's all these like well-to-do retired people, and there's me, right? And it was the funniest thing. They're like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm temporarily retired." It was interesting, right? So met a lot of cool people. Spent biking like that. Spent biking 2 years biking, and then got tired of that. And I was walking. I was like biking or walking. I can't remember, in the woods one day, and like I was like, "Oh, I want to start an ad network." So I started it. I came back, started an ad network, ran that for 2 years, sold that. That was cool. And after that, I started two other tech projects that didn't do so well, to be honest. Like because it was just like tech is a whole different other animal. And at the time when I was doing that, I started running webinars as well. Like in 2014, we crushed the webinars, like killed it, right? And then webinars stopped working about 2018. I would say they kind of died as far as I see. And if you're running webinars out there and you're doing well, you know they don't work as well as they used to. And for those that tried, I know you tried it, Robert.
Yeah.
They don't work, and we're gonna talk about it later. So I did that, and then I started this other new tech company because I learned a lot of lessons from the tech companies. I mean, I got obsessed with this idea. It's like there's this like I climbed a lot of mountains, right? And I'm like, I want to climb this mountain, which is tech world, right? And I want to create this like company. And I started this company, this marketing SaaS, right, company. This was like a year before Robert and I met. And it was interesting because I had like a lot of people come at me. They're like, they want to invest $1 million. This guy wants to invest 100 grand. They were just throwing money at me, and I was like, I don't want it, because it's like if I take anybody's money as investment, then it's like what they say, like if you partner with somebody, you partner with all their problems and everything. So I'm like, no, I don't want to deal with that. So it's completely self-funded, and I had no idea how I'm going to sell this software, right? So I'm building this software, and I have no idea how I'm going to sell it. I'm just obsessed with it. So like, it's like software. Basically, it's like an awesome software for marketing. I'll just leave it at that. We'll talk about it later. And me and Robert started working together, and so like the thing is, like, what really attracted me to the project of the 2-hour agency, the funnel we have, is like, if you put 20,000 people in the funnel, then I can have 20,000 agency owners push our software, right? And then that's the other reason we're recording this video, because the idea is like, well, hey, like if you can have 10 to 20,000 people have their own products helping other people, then when our software is ready, that they can promote our software, so we can climb that mountain and get to the top. Anyway, and so long story short, top gurus pay me 25 grand on a regular basis for consulting, or $2,000 an hour. Had one very, very famous guru offer me $100,000. I declined because the product was shit. He was literally selling, what was it? Like, it was like, you could buy these ingredients on Amazon for like 50 cents, and he wanted to sell it for $2. Now, like, there's no amount of lying that you can lie to sell this shit, and not to mention just selling it ethically. It's impossible, right? I'm like, because anybody who's going to pay you $200 for this can Google the ingredients and see it's garbage. I'm like, I don't care how you package it, right? So that's that. I quit consulting, don't do any more consulting, because like, why build other people's businesses? I really enjoyed it for a while. It was awesome. And now we're focused on this. And so that's kind of like a long, short story that, my journey that dragged out for a bit here.
That's all good, man. It's an interesting history. You've been doing it for a while, and I think people can tell when they hear what you have to share. So I'll give a briefer version of that as far as my history. A lot of people probably.
One more thing. I got to put this disclaimer. Can you go back? This is really important. So here it says $100 million in sales online, right? I really hate that number, but I just want to clarify. That's gross sales. That's all the sales I've been involved in, consulting, partners, different launches I've helped with, etc. Not my money. Like,
you don't have 100 million cash in the bank ready to go?
No. No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I like to clarify that, because a lot of people are like, I did this. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, we're very, like, our whole thing is like honesty, transparency, and being humble, right? Because we get our asses kicked every day in the marketplace. We learn a lot. So that's gross sales. So like, you got partners, expenses, processors, refunds, taxes. It whittles down a lot. I did really very well for myself, but it's gross sales.
Fair enough.
Yeah, gotta put that disclaimer there.
Yeah, cool. So obviously the whole sort of funnel that we built and that we're going to share with you is a 2-hour agency, and that's all based on the agency that I built. So in 2012, I was working in a corporate job, and I just remember sitting at my desk thinking like, man, there's got to be more to life than this. And I remember finding this course that was like, hey, I'll teach you how to build an online business. I was like, damn, this is exactly what I want. So I joined that. I started an agency and did things the traditional way, where it was like prospecting, doing cold calls and stuff. And I was like, man, this really sucks. I had to figure out a better way. So what I started doing was like undercutting the market a lot, to the point where like people didn't even need a phone call with me because my pricing was so low. They just like bought my, it's a video production agency, and they would just buy my videos straight off the website because we were just undercutting the market so much. And so I did that, and I built it up, and I automated it, and then I wrote this book that you might be familiar with at this point. It's called To Our Agency. I'll talk more about that in a second, but yeah, I built that up, and it's still up and running, and we got 13 clients last month. I basically work like 10 minutes a month at this point in that agency. I've traveled a lot because of my business. I've been able to go to a lot of really cool places, doing road trips and stuff in the States and New Zealand, and going to Dubai and all that shit. But more importantly, like I moved to another country, and the only reason I bring this up in my bio is like, a lot of people can just build an online business. In reality, they're not really making any money, and so they go travel somewhere, they take a cool picture, and it's like, oh, this dude's crushing it. But when you move to another country, it means that you have to be able to support yourself. You can't just go on a trip from your business and make it look like you're crushing it, okay? So that's the only reason I bring this up here. It's like a different level of success you have to have with your business to be able to do that. But the super relevant piece of information here is that together with Alan, we built a 7-figure information business / coaching business in 12 months, okay, from nothing. Sold over 11,000 books. And the way I did this, by the way, was I applied the same approach, the lazy man's approach of trying to get a good result without doing the work himself, that I've done in my agency, where I automated everything. We did the same thing with this book model, right? So we had a model to get people in through the door, and then we built a model that we're going to share with you later on about how do you actually take a $5 book buyer and turn them into a $5,000 coaching client in an automated way. Like I didn't even do the sales calls. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's a brief version of my history and how this all came about. By the way, this 7-figure business is like I just told you, had this automated agency, and when I you'd meet people, right? Specifically other people in this industry and other agency owners, and I would tell them about the results that I was having and how little work I was doing, and their ears would just like blow off. They just couldn't believe how that was possible. So I knew I was kind of like sitting on a cool idea and a cool like system for how I do things, and I tried to sell that with webinars. So I tried a Russell Brunson webinar. I tried a Frank Kern webinar. I tried a Russell Ruffino webinar. And I just kept trying these webinars and kept going back to Facebook and whatever, putting money into advertising, getting people to watch my webinar, and nobody was buying anything. And I just really couldn't figure out why. And we're going to cover it a little bit more, but we don't necessarily want to focus on why webinars didn't work so much. Like we just want to share with you what really did end up working for us. So what I did was, after kind of trying and failing at webinars a couple of times, I kind of put it on the shelf for a while. I was a bit discouraged, and then the excitement and the idea of the thing working out sort of grows on you again, and so you go back to the drawing board and you're like, okay, well, let's try something else. So one day I just kind of sat down, like Alan was saying before, like I literally just put my kid to bed and just go sit down at home and start writing. So I wrote this book over like 10 days, 14 days, something like that, which was the same stuff that was in the webinar really, but I turned it into a book, and then I priced it at $37, and I just posted this one post that you're looking at right now on my Facebook page. And I did not have a big following, like I wasn't content man who was posting stuff all the time. So I posted this and I said to myself, if I can get 5 sales out of this, that's a huge win. And so I posted this post that you're looking at, and 48 hours later, I checked the stats, and I had 103 sales. And with the upsells, $6,000, give or take $100. And I was just blown away. Like I was just super happy because, again, with the webinars, like the first thing that you do is you have to take money and give it to Facebook and test the idea, right? Like see what happens. And here I was able to do the opposite. Like I just posted this to a very, very small following and made $6,000 that I was able to put into ads instead. So like right off the bat, we were, starting on a right foot, it felt like. Mm-hmm. So that's how that whole thing came about. And so to distill our whole little method or system or whatever you want to call it here, we've got this $1 million idea. So Alan, maybe you want to walk them through these 3 steps just kind of briefly, and we'll dig into each one a bit more.
Yeah. Okay. So just to preface that, like, as Robert said, like, he couldn't make 3 webinars work, and I noticed, like, I did webinars from 2014 to 2018. Like I said, not teaching, I'm actually running them, right, and did very, very well with them, millions of dollars in sales in them. The thing is, like, and I was doing a lot of consulting on webinars, and what I realized, like, after doing a lot of consulting, is that webinars don't really work anymore, right? The economics and all this other stuff we still use on webinars work. It's just that there's other things, other factors that affect them, like attention. We'll talk about that, right? So, like Robert said, like, he took his webinar and he turned it into a book. So a lot of my previous consulting clients, that I'm great friends with all of them. I'm like, hey, just take your webinar, have it transcribed, turn it into a $5 book, and that's the $1 million idea, right? And we'll talk about why it works, etc. But this is the idea, right? You create a product for $5, right? A book. It can be a supplement. It can be something that's worth a lot more than $5. So our philosophy is, like, you should sell it. Like, the value for $5 should be $1,000, and not just like marketing math. I mean real math. Like, would somebody pay $1,000 for this standalone, in the marketplace? And that's yes, you got a great thing. Okay, so you do that and you sell 1 to 300, right? Okay, out of every 1 to 300, 1 to 3 people will become $5,000 buyers. I think 1 out of 1,000 will become a $25,000 client, right? And then 1 out of 10,000 could possibly become a $100,000 client, right? So you build this process and you automate the fulfillment of service, and you literally, once it's set up, you got one thing to do, which is 1 call a week to fulfill your $5,000 and up service, right? For automatic clients, we do 3 calls a week. It's a lot more work because our metrics aren't money. Like, our metrics with this program aren't really just to make a bunch of money. It's to have the most success stories so people can actually push our software when it's ready. So we do 3 calls a week. But for you, in your case, 1 call a week is fine. Yep. So that's it. It's very simple. But there's a lot of things there to make it work, right? For example, like, you'll see a lot of guys out there, well, how is this different than a book, right? Like, you'll see a lot of people out there running book offers. It's very different because, as far as I know, we're one of few people out there that can actually turn a $5 buyer to a $5,000 buyer in 7 days, right?
Yeah, they're all here watching this video right now to learn the process.
Exactly, right? So the thing is like, well, why not a free book? Well, why not, a dollar book, right? Like all these other guys are like, free book, right? Well, nobody respects a free book. When's the last time you read a free book?
Yeah, was that Kindle Unlimited?
Yeah, exactly. So like, we're like, why $5? Like, everybody's like, why $5? Well, so when Robert first did a book, it was like $37, right? And we found we couldn't scale. It wasn't scalable. Like, you get like 20, 30, maybe 40 sales a day, then they would just die and repeat. And it was like a very wobbly process, right? So we rebuilt the whole funnel on this new architecture, economic architecture, and then it exploded, right? So Kindle, like, just to give you his history, like, before Kindle, we used to sell ebooks for $47 to $97. People would buy it, right? Because they were this like exotic thing. When Amazon Kindle came, books were pegged, at $5 to about $25, right? College textbooks and up are like $30, right? So people trying to sell like ebooks and whatever for hire doesn't work. If you sell a book for $1 to free, nobody respects it. For example, if you sell a book for $1, people are like, okay, it's a cheap piece of shit, nobody wants it, right? If you have one of those offers, it's a free book, just pay shipping, people really hate that because nobody reads free books. So for example, Kindle, Amazon has Kindle Unlimited. You can pay like $10 a month, I think, and you have unlimited access to books. And I've had Kindle Unlimited for like 4 years. I never used the damn thing. I never read a book because the books are just perceived as low quality. So $5 to $10, maybe $15 price point is like the perfect sweet spot. You just want to model what Amazon does because they've literally created a standard for the entire world what a book should cost. Yeah. So that's basically why.
Cool. And so, if you look on the top right on the screen, you can see this. This is the $1 million idea, right? You got these 3 little steps, and so we wanted to dig in a little bit deeper into each one. So, this is the component funnel that we've talked about before. This is how we sell 100 to 300 $5 books per day, and the way we do it is we've got a front-end product, we've got upsell 1, and then we have a downsell to upsell 1 if they say no. We've got upsell 2, and then we have a downsell to upsell 2. And this is our free client acquisition engine, right? So this is the funnel that we use to mine buyers. This allows us to get people that are customers. We're going to spend maybe we could spend $5,000 a day on Facebook to acquire these, and we'll make $5,000 back that same day. So we'll have, a couple of hundred new buyers, but we didn't really make any money. We didn't lose any money. So now we got all these people that we can offer our high ticket services to. And like Alan pointed out, you can get 1 to 3 out of 100 people to actually buy a $5,000 program for you, from you. And there's a big assumption there, by the way, which we're about to cover. But if you do things right, you'll be able to do that. But this is the front end of everything. And ideally, you're able to actually get, so I'm not sure if you touched on this already, but if you do sell a $5 book, what you would like to do ideally is be able to make 10 times from that. So from this funnel on the screen, if you're able to extract $50 out of that, the average order value, you're in really good shape. You're going to be able to scale that on like any ad network that you can ever find. And if you're able to do 5x of that, so if you have a $5 book and you squeeze $25 out of that, you're still going to be able to scale that pretty damn well. Like you'll be able to sell probably 100 to 300 books with those numbers. And then you take all of those buyers and you put them into the next step here, which is kind of the second step of this $1 million idea. So maybe Alan, you want to walk them through what happens. They buy this book, and then what needs to happen for them to become a $5,000+ buyer, or
Right. I do want to add one thing to the previous slide, if you don't mind. That's really important. So like it says like here, 1 to 300 books a day. We use this because that's the metric we have, like 300 books consistently. There's this thing called bonking, right? So like if you're like running, biking, or exercising, like you run out of fuel and your body just doesn't work anymore. What we found from our testing is like we literally suck out all the buyers out of a market on a daily basis. So like imagine like a pond, right? And like you fish out all the fish and you got to wait for the fish to replenish in the pond. So when we say 300 with this model, we're sucking out all the buyers out of a market any given day, right? So if you do the 10x, you can get 1,000 buyers depending on the market size. So anyway, so let's go to the next slide. And we'll talk about it. So, all right, guys. So now you have the thing, right? You have somebody on the left-hand side right here buying, giving you $5, and then in 7 days they're going to give you $5,000, which is 1,000 times more, right? That's crazy to think about, like 1,000 times more, or 25,000 times more, right? And in between that, there's this thing called the wall of conversion resistance. It took us a long time to figure this out, right? And so there's a process we have, which is called engineering awareness, and that's like you take a buyer from $5, and then you put them through this process, right, using value bombs and such, and we'll tell you how this works. And once you do that, you take them from being unaware to being fully aware, most aware. And then like as you can see, like as you move them through this line right here, they become a $5,000 buyer. Like everybody out there that's selling books or doing anything doesn't have this process. Now webinars have this process dialed in, and this is one of the reasons webinars work, is because this is built into a webinar right now. But the problem is that webinar economics don't work. So like this part works, the economic component of webinar doesn't work. We'll talk about it later. But Robert, I think you have a really good way of explaining this concept right here.
The example that I like to use is like, I think a lot of this is the awareness that we're looking at, and also the urgency. So if you think about like if you have a massive like tooth pain, you just wake up, right, and your tooth just hurts like crazy. Where are you on this scale of awareness? You're on the far right, right? Even if you didn't have $5,000, if your tooth hurt enough, you'd probably find a way to get $5,000 together for that dentist to actually go ahead and help you with that. So I think a lot of times when people buy stuff, and like Alan pointed out, like this took us a while to figure out, but when people buy things, so when we first started selling these books, it wasn't clear to us that the difference between somebody who was joining our $5,000 program and somebody who bought the $5 book, that this is what was in between them. So
right.
A lot of times when people buy a $5 book, a small percentage of those people are actually going to be on the far right of this. They're going to be most aware. They're going to be ready to buy a $5,000 product, but that's not the vast majority. In fact, the vast majority is completely, I would say they're unaware or maybe problem aware. And so for a lot of them, it's more of a curiosity purchase. Obviously, $5 is not going to hurt their economics as far as like their own financial situation. So it's not a huge risk. So they can go ahead, they can buy that. And so when we first started doing this, we didn't really make that distinction of like, okay, well, what is the difference in the $5 buyer and the $5,000 buyer? And this is it right here. So
What,
go ahead.
right. Well, the way we figured this out was like we started paying attention to like what was going on, right? And so like one of the ways, one of the things we noticed is that people that read the book ended up buying the $5,000 program, right? And like so we created these things like the fast, 7-day fast track, this accelerator program that was part of engineering into the book, and these other things. And so what we found was like the more we started engineering awareness into the process, the more $5,000 sales we got, right? And like the craziest thing is this, like once you do this right, people will come to you and ask you they want to buy. They're like, just tell me more, a few questions, I'm in, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to sell them nothing. They come, and by the time you talk to them, it's literally just like, how much and how does it work? Like when can I start? That's kind of the question, right? If you try to sell a $5,000 program to somebody that's unaware, man, you have like 8 million questions in there, like all sorts of questions. And you just get tired of answering. You're like, I don't want to answer this thing. So once you engineer this, it's like magic.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot about like why webinars don't work. By the way, this is why webinars work. Like we don't hate on webinars. We just know that the economics of the webinar model don't necessarily work out. But if you look at a webinar as far as what it does, is it takes somebody from an unaware stage into a product or a most aware stage, and that's why they buy. So you have their attention for a long time. You're able to describe the problem, the solution, the product, and that's how people end up buying. So that's kind of it's a hugely important piece of this whole puzzle. So hopefully a lot of people get value out of that.
And one more thing, we're actually like this is what we just talked about, like 1%. There's gonna be a separate video that you gotta watch that's gonna dig into this and explain
like how do
this
you actually do this.
Yeah, so all these concepts we're talking about, these are just like, we're touching upon this first video, just like, giving you a taste.
Yeah.
And then we're going to go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think we're actually getting a little more deeper than we want in this video, but I think it's important to set the stage for what's important.
Yeah, totally. And so the last third part here of this $1 million idea is to actually fulfill the product or the service. And the thing here is like, everybody who's watching this is coming from a different market. So, it might not be possible for you to do a $5,000 product, but maybe a $1,000 product or $2,000 product. I know that a lot of people, including myself, even just like a year or two ago, getting somebody to pay you $5,000 for a product just seemed sort of out of reach and a little bit scary. And like, is it worth $5,000? Like, am I worth $5,000, right? It's very common to feel that way. But we're going to challenge everybody in here to actually make products and provide services that are worth it, but to actually discuss like how do you fulfill this in a scalable way, because I'll talk about how to do that. But what we did when we started this, by the way, is we learned this the hard way as well, because what we did was we took on coaching clients in a one-on-one fashion. And we quickly learned that like this is just not going to work because it's not scalable. So the question is like, how could you theoretically, let's just disregard what market you're in for a moment. How could you deliver on a $5,000 coaching/consulting product or service? The way you could do that is you'd have this centralized program. It's kind of like a course, and you combine it with coaching. So they watch this course, they do the homework, and what I did was I had to have one phone call a week on Thursdays, and typically these are like 6 to 12 week programs. So like that's how you would do that. We call it a one-to-many high-ticket program, and this is going to allow you to actually scale this thing up. And Alan, do you have anything to add on this slide? Otherwise, I'm going to go on and talk about how you can actually scale this even further.
Yeah, so it's very important. So that was like focus of selling, right? But there's this so a lot of people watching this, there's the huge intimidation factor. Like, how the hell do I get somebody to pay me $5,000? Like a lot of people that we have in the program now, and automatic clients are actually doing this. There's this like first thing they come in, like the first thing I have to deal with is like, okay, there's this issue of the person saying, my stuff is not worth $5,000, right? That's the biggest thing. But what you got to realize, your high ticket product is really a transformational program. It transforms a person's life to better it. They can like change their life forever, right? So for example, if you're in a fitness industry and you have somebody that's obese, has, could potentially have like diabetes, heart issues, and you have a program that can actually get results for them, change them, that's priceless. That's not worth $5,000. It's worth like $100,000, because that person can live 20 years more. They're not going to have all these problems. They get older. It's a transformational program. So with agencies, like with a 2-hour agency program, it's crazy, right? Like we have people come in there, and I think like what was that one guy? I think James. How much did he make off the program? Like he had his like first
Oh
$50,000
yeah,
month.
yeah. He went from like 10,000 a month to 50,000 a month.
Yeah, exactly. So like there's a ton of people out there that are getting like even automatic clients. Like there's a guy out there. He's never in the program. He's never bought traffic before, and he's running this. He's running his book off right, and he's getting $5,000 sales. And it's crazy. He's like, I don't. This is insane, and it works, right? So, um, yeah. So you got to think of this as a transformational program, right? People are paying you to accelerate their results and help them create a transformation. Now, how do you help somebody create a transformation? We'll talk about it later, and we have a whole process with worksheets and all that good stuff.
Yeah, but the big point here is like we want people to actually like we don't want anybody going through our stuff that's literally gonna like scam people or like sell shitty products. Like we want people that are actually gonna help others. And if you do that, like you follow our process, you're gonna absolutely crush it.
So one thing I do want to add is that we actually kick people out of the program. That's something we do that I don't think anybody else does. Like if you come into the program and we go through the process and you wanna scam people or offer something that doesn't work, we're not going to work with you. We say this is not for you. You got to go, right? Because we don't want that bad energy. Like if you come into the program and you come into our Slack channel, like the energy is insane. Like people are getting shit done. They're putting out books. They're putting out offers. It's like awesome, right?
Yeah, we want to
People
maintain that.
Yeah, exactly. And so like there's guys there that come there and they're like, oh, I want to sell this thing because it makes me a lot of money. So I'm like, okay, let's see if the shit works. And so I'll have a conversation with them. I'll be like, okay, would you sell this to your mom or sister or brother, right? Then there's this like uncomfortable yes, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And so I'm like, okay, great. So fine. I'm like, we'll sell this. We can help you sell it. And I'm like, what happens when you create a Facebook group with 10,000 customers in there? And what, would they eat you alive in there? Right. And it gets really fucking uncomfortable, right? And they're like, oh, I see you have a point, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, if that's the case, like, we're not going to accept you. We don't care if you want to, no amount of money is going to let you into the program. We're not going to let you in. And if you let you in and you try to trick us, and then try to sell some scammy shit or like something that's unethical or something, it's not even about scammy stuff. If you're trying to sell stuff that doesn't help people or doesn't get results for people, we don't want to work with you, period. It's like that's it. It's like we don't care.
Yeah.
So that's one of our rules. It's like you got to sell good stuff,
period.
Yeah.
Cool. The other point that I wanted to make here is like, how can you actually take that to a whole other level? So if you think about this, do it yourself. This is kind of like an information business typically, right? So if you take an ebook, for example, this is a do-it-yourself product. They buy the book, they're on their own. Then you have a done with you. This is more of a coaching consulting product. Might be a course combined with a weekly coaching program, right? $1,000 to $5,000. You can automate most of it, but you still probably do some coaching. You could delegate coaching, but that can be tricky. And then you have a done for you. This is more of an agency thing, right? But the reason I bring this up is like what we've taken here and done is we've kind of combined these. So if you are in a market that has the capacity to, for you or for the buyers to actually buy your stuff on a done for you level, then what you could do is you could offer all three. So you could have a book, you could have a done with you. So you take Kevin, for example, who's in our program. Kevin helps gym owners get more members. So Kevin has a book and he sells a $5 book and it's for gym owners and he's going to show them his system. He's going to help them get more members. Then for those people that are a little bit more serious that want to accelerate their results, Kevin has a done with you program. So it's a course combined with Kevin's group coaching. So they have his course, they join every week for a phone call. He literally goes around the table, talks to each one and helps them out. Then Alan had this really good idea for him, which was, hey, listen, man, like you got all these gym owners who a lot of them dream about this and a lot of them feels that this is so out of reach for them. They never even had the idea. But he was like, if you wanted to, you could actually sell them like their own private supplement company. Like you do the branding, you hook them up with a private label company, you hook them up with some ideas as far as the products they could sell, and they would literally have their gym, but also they would have this online business on top of that, which is your own supplement company. And that's, what's that worth, Alan? Like $100,000 at least? Like you could make that back with a supplement company pretty quickly.
A ton, yeah. And it's great value, So for example, like let's say like, somebody's out there like a gym owner or an influencer and Kevin helps them build a supplement company. dude, it's
Oh,
it's,
yeah.
it's like, you know, that person could sell their supplement company for millions of dollars. It's freaking priceless. It's amazing. And the cool thing is like it's all this is value building, right? That's the
Yeah.
biggest thing we're trying to communicate. Like, for example, like you run on ads on Facebook and you're selling a good product that offers help to people. Facebook makes money off you. That's value. The person getting the product gets the information they need. It helps their life. That's good value. You generating revenue and money for yourself so you can live a better life. That's good value. Value all over, right? So it's like value, 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 right? And so yeah, it's priceless, man. Like, and the other thing we do in the program, like we really, I mean, we go extra mile isn't even the word. I mean, we go really all out for our guys, you know, like to make sure. Like I had Nick. There's this other guy, Nick. He sells to mortgage brokers, and like, you know, I spent 4 days on the phone with him, helping him out, like getting shit done. And once we did, he's a monster, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, so this is really just to get you excited as well, to see what you can do. And this all, by the way, comes back to what Alan was talking about before, which is the economics. So like, you know, let's say you were selling do-it-yourself and done with you could break even on these two. Like your AOV could be like 50 to $100, and you could spend all of that money on advertising, and then you could just have a done for you thing on the back end and make all your money from that. So just put this here to get your ideas brewing, get you a little bit excited about what's possible. And with that, I think we want to wrap this video up and just kind of say thank you and welcome to this little course. And this was just a taste to get you started and show you the general idea of how what we built works. And we've got another video coming up next, which is about transition periods. So
Yep.
yeah, Alan, anything to add on your end before we wrap this first video up?
No, that's it, man. Let's keep going. We have a lot to cover.
Yeah, we do indeed. All right, thanks for watching the first video. We'll see you in the next one.